face towards the sun. You feel the warmth of the rays, and then you know you're alive, and you don't have to be afraid of anything, 'cause you know.
Welcome to the Bassline. Victoria Chapman is a holistic health practitioner in Ontario. She employs an East meets West type of multidisciplinary approach to her therapeutic method. I met her in the Stop the Shots community on X, where she is a thoughtful contributor. Here today to provide her unique perspective is the victorious Victoria Chapman. How are you this afternoon, Victoria? How is the weather in Ontario?
Hi, Jeremiah. I'm great, thank you. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great today. Quick touch base with the listening audience. Of course, the way you support this program is you can go to my website, jeremiahhosea.com. Please buy the theme song of this program for $1 if you could. Please make your way over to my Substack as well. That is Jeremiah Hosea, JeremiahHosea on Substack. And I'm really excited to say that my most recent article called The Old Black Sayings, Folk Wisdom Can Save Your Life, is my most popular article. I'm not sure what happened that it sort of caught fire a little bit, and it was sitting there at like 70 likes or 70 something likes, and now I have over 400 likes, which of course it's not about like, but it's a matter of, yes, I do want this conversation amplified, and yes, I do want people engaging with the work. And actually, I encourage all of you to take my articles and reappropriate them, turn them into memes, take out a segment and republish it somewhere, turn it into a poster, turn it into a meme, send the text to someone. If it helps to mention my name and say that, okay, this is a excerpt from an essay by Jeremiah Hosea Landis, well, that's fine. You could do that, but you can also republish my words without mention of the source if it's more effective, because I don't want anyone to be distracted by the question of who I am. Just take the thought and spread it out into the world, because we really need people to engage in these discussions. We can't let these crimes against humanity go without justice being served on some level. And more importantly, we have to protect our children from these types of abuses of power in the future. We have this sort of dystopian technocracy looming over our heads, and it's rather disturbing. The sort of ordinary, go about your daily business sort of way of life seems to be slowly disappearing, evaporating as corporations, tech companies of various kinds, private institutions, governmental institutions working in collusion to just continually encroach upon our sovereignty, both our physical and psychological sovereignty. So, this is not a time to be silent. This is not a time to be on the sideline. Of course, everyone has their own role to play, and we're all at different phases in our lives. We all have different life circumstances that we have to deal with realistically. But let's all come together and do our best to make a coalition and to strengthen existing coalitions and start making some inroads in terms of standing up for our sovereignty and for our children. Let's see. Also, of course, you can support this program by buying a chess lesson for yourself or for a loved one. RemoteLearningChess.com is my company. I'm a very experienced chess teacher. I will work with you no matter what your experience level. If you're really experienced, I'll feed the dragon, so to speak, and give you some really up-to-date games and ideas to look at out of the New in Chess yearbook. If you are a totally inexperienced player or even someone who doesn't know the rules at all, I will teach you from scratch. I will patiently do so. I have no problem with that. Or if you're a beginner who just knows how the pieces move but have no theory, I will change that. I'll put a lot of tools in your toolbox. But the point is, I would like people to take me on and to sign up for some chess lessons, because it's great for your health mentally in terms of getting those neurotransmitters firing. It's an elegant game. It's a beautiful game. It's actually a great way of saving money ultimately. If you stay home and play chess, well, you're not out in the city spending up your money on expensive movies and overpriced items. But all of those are the ways that you can support this program, and I appreciate every bit of support, because we do have every intention of continuing with this mission here on the Bassline, bringing you outstanding guests on a weekly basis. And today, of course, is no different. We have my friend Victoria Chapman on the line, who's a fascinating lady, a very positive person in my experience, an insightful person. We actually just completed a sort of interview conversation that she published. It's on Rumble. Hopefully she could share with us the link, or let me pull up the link where you can look that up on Rumble. But we had a really great conversation just a few days ago about mental health, and I would love for you folks to check that out. And that conversation was so enjoyable that I figured, you know what, let's just continue this on the PRN airwaves on the Bassline Medical Freedom Radio program. So if you go to Rumble, that's rumble.com, type in Let's Talk Mental Health, and my conversation with today's guest should be there. So please cue that up. Maybe you could take a listen to it later or over the weekend. But Victoria, first of all, before we get into other various topics, I would love for you to give us an introduction to your methods as a healer. I know that you combine different methods, different approaches. I know you sort of do an East meets West type of synergy in your approach. Please just give us an overview and an introduction into the type of healing work that you do.
Sure, yeah. First and foremost, thank you so much for having me on today. So I'll just give a little bit of a background here. I was working in mental health over the last 25 years, and I found that there was a lot of missing links to the education that I was receiving when it comes to actually being able to support someone's journey, their whole entire experience, mind, body, and soul. So I ended up combining Eastern and Western medicine. I really looked into psychology, anatomy, epigenetics, neuroscience, quantum physics, and energy medicine, and allowed for it allowed for the opportunity for me to pull together services that educate, equip, and empower people to restore and reclaim their mental, emotional, and energetic well-being. So I'm a co-owner of the Sudbury Body Talk Clinic and Education Center here in Sudbury. And a big part of the services that I provide is not only doing the coaching aspect around really helping someone work through the psychology and really get to who they are and what they're all about, but I also then provide different energy medicine healing. So I do body talk, I do Reiki, I do tuning fork therapy, I do emotional freedom technique. So yeah, just really bringing all of the different aspects of what it is to be a human being together and working with mental, emotional, and energetic health and well-being that way, versus just looking at what's going on with the mind or the behavior or social connection type of deal. So yeah, it's extremely rewarding. It is getting down to the root of issues instead of just looking at the symptoms of what's going on with a person. So it's definitely been a beautiful journey to be able to provide these types of services to people.
That sounds great. That's really fascinating. And what was the name of the clinic again?
So it's called the Sudbury Body Talk Clinic.
Could you say that slowly and clearly so everyone could maybe look it up?
Yeah, sure. So Sudbury Body Talk Clinic.
Okay, very good. So could you spell that, please?
Sure. So it's SUDVURY. And then Body Talk is BODYTALK.
Sidari Body
and
Talk.
clinic.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
that
Body
first
Talk
word is the
Clinic.
one that people aren't going to pick up offhand, so you got to spell it out for them.
Yeah, fair enough.
So we talk here about the COVID event from every angle. That's sort of an running theme on this program. I just sit here in total fascination 5 years into this ordeal, what I call the emergence of the biosecurity state. And I watch in horror as, for example, most recently, someone took to a podium and suggested that we're going to venture into a whole new frontier of cancer vaccines, cancer mRNA vaccines, which is something that sounds like a very bad idea on paper to me. I think the mRNA platform should be banned. I direct everyone to my interview with Dr. Michael Palmer, who just said, irrespective of the toxicity of the spike protein specifically, mRNA will induce the body to fight itself, because basically anything that's foreign to the body will wish to expel. So when you make the body produce foreign proteins, you're making the body fight itself. And I just think it's bad news. It sounded like bad news before I knew more about it. And the more I learned about it, the more I said, how on earth could they use the public as a dumping ground for these dangerous products? But here we are, the enemy, the bad guy, the biosecurity people have not taken their ball to go home and say, oh, we had our fun at the park. They're not done making profit and enacting the techniques of domination. What has been your experience? What are some of your general ideas, observations around what you've experienced in Canada, in Ontario? We always love to have a perspective from another country in particular, and you with your background, I'm sure you have some particular insights. But what did you observe? What were some of the things that stick out to you as highlights, positive or negative highlights of the past 5 years?
Great question. So I think that first and foremost, the number one thing that I see around the last 5 years is that it really gave people an opportunity to take a time out in life at some level and really take a look at what is going on in the world. I feel like everybody was so used to being in the rat race that they really weren't paying attention to what was actually going on a larger scale. So I do think that one of the positive takeaways from the whole entire COVID operation is that it woke a lot of people up to what is really going on in the world. So that was a great takeaway. On a personal level, I was working at a Christian organization when COVID first hit, and I was ill at the time. I had a cold myself, so I was sent home. I eventually was told through that organization that I had no God-given rights or human rights. That was mind-blowing to me, especially when you're working for a Christian organization that, all their values are behind God-given rights, and yet that was not proven during this whole entire time. So that was really a complicated situation and mind-blowing to walk through and work through. One of the things that Canada has been, unfortunately, our Prime Minister took a dictatorship role through this whole entire pandemic. I mean, I think that the whole entire world has been watching what has been going on in Canada over the last 5 years. The mandates were extremely strict. They, were considering people that were not open to taking this experimental drug. They were considering them a fringe minority. There was all these different names that we were called, from racist and bigots. And I mean, the gaslighting was absolutely insane, to be honest. Canada has still to this day, brought in back and forth mandates at different times. It really has been a massive psychological warfare to witness, to be totally honest. And I think more so, when you were making mention of how did we end up here, I think that there's so many variables and it's so complex when we think about like, how did we walk directly into this experiment? And I think that a big part of it is that people were just so busy in their own life that they didn't have time to look into what was going on. And people don't think or would never want to assume that we live in a world that our governments are mandating us to take something that could actually harm us. So I think that there was a lot of cognitive dissonance. And I think that, unfortunately, here in Canada, we have definitely had some extreme measures taken at times.
Yeah, I was so shocked to see what was transpiring in Canada. We always hear as Americans, I think we have this impression, or we used to have this impression of Canada being sort of more reasonable and safer. If anything got really bad, just flee to Canada and, just be safer around all those nice, more polite, reasonable people. But it seemed like a lot of draconian stuff that was going on in Canada was in some ways worse than what was going on in the U.S. in general. And the remarks coming out of Justin Trudeau were just chilling. It was like, who put this snotty little preppy in charge of this New World Order operation? He was just having too much fun with his role as dictator. I never understood that ridiculous remark when he was accusing the so-called unvaccinated of being racist and misogynist. And it just begs the question, well, what's racist about not wanting to be injected with garbage? What are you talking about? What does that have to do with race or disrespecting women? Why would you call someone a misogynist for not wanting an unnecessary medical intervention? How stupid. But that was something that seemed to be happening as these leaders in various places, Trudeau, leaders here in the U.S., they were making these outrageous comments, and there was no one from the press challenging them. Just saying, for example, when Joe Biden said he was losing his patience with the unvaccinated, that's something that a pimp would say. He's losing his patience. I'm not your property. What do you mean you're losing your patience with my personal decision to refrain from something? But they were never called to the carpet. They were never questioned about this outrageous language they had adopted during that period. Let me ask you about your observations in terms of vaccine injury, because I had no idea when all of this was starting that these shots would be so injurious. I just objected to these shots on GP, general principle, and then I heard some concerning things about, wow, this could be, frankly, a dangerous thing that they're doing. And then I started really seeing serious indications of vaccine injury. And now we have a massive compilation of evidence in terms of full-length documentaries showing the vaccine injured, giving their firsthand testimony about what happened to them. You have over 1,000 peer-reviewed papers indicating all sorts of different harms of mRNA, of the lipid nanoparticle delivery system. We have, I've pointed out repeatedly, and I will continue to point out, the book written by former Bassline guest John Baudouin, The Real CDC. You can pick up that book at therealcdc.com. I think that is a very, very important document right now. He shows right at the time of the rollout that if you use that marker, you see an unbelievable amount of injuries of different categories going through the roof. And for all the talk about myocarditis, pericarditis, I'll just say quickly, it's our job as conscientious people who have been following this to let people know renal failure is the leading killer associated with the COVID injections. Renal failure and actually pulmonary embolism as well are both significantly higher sources of death than even myocarditis, pericarditis, which obviously are two very serious conditions as well. That's another little crime in the big symphony of criminal activity is I guess not a symphony, more like a cacophony of criminal activity. They have tried to say that, don't worry about myocarditis, pericarditis. What's the big deal with a little bit of heart inflammation? You'll get over it. Where no credible heart doctor, no heart doctor I would ever want to see, should make those kind of remarks about heart injury. But yeah, these shots have proven, in my opinion, to be, and I think more than my opinion, to be extremely injurious. But what have you seen personally, overall? What has been your observations and experiences in terms of vaccine injury?
So I think that the first complexity of all this is the way that there's different batches and different. Some people got a batch that was saline. Other people got a batch that was the absolute poison. So it's really difficult right now to determine what is going on with people. Because some people have gotten the real vaccination and other people haven't. And I don't even want to use the word vaccination here. We already know that it's gene therapy. However, one of the big things that I'm seeing myself is that there's a lot of people that are experiencing different levels of mental health issues after all of this. I mean, obviously, just having the experience of the last 5 years to begin with would highlight and increase mental health issues. There's a lot of people that are very scared about what they just witnessed in our world. But the other thing that I'm really noticing and seeing is that, you know, people are having these weird experiences. They are, you know, whether it's they're fainting or whether it is that they are having different issues with their heart. I think that the saddest and biggest part that we need to look at when it comes to vax injured is that there's so many people that are unaware that the vax injured are being neglected as a whole right now on the world stage. So, you know, there's a lot of different people that are having different health issues. As we know, some people are connecting the dots and recognize that that is because of whatever was in that shot. But then there is also a humongous population that is under that brainwashing aspect around safe and effective. They still believe that they were safe and effective. So even though they're having various health issues, they're not connecting the dots, which, I mean, I think that, you know, depending on what level of understanding people are at, I feel like there's a lot of people that would rather ignore what the actual outcome is here of this whole entire experiment because it's easier to do. It's not as scary to look at, but I've definitely come across people that are injured. And one of the things is that they are now being dropped by their doctors. No lawyers will touch them. No insurance companies will touch them. And so now they're in this position where they were just coerced into taking this. And now they are experiencing health issues and major health issues at that, and then kind of just left to deal with it on their own. And that part to me is just heartbreaking, first and foremost, because, you know, the people that are vaccinated that have not been injured tend to think and feel that the vaccine can't injure you. And then those who have not been vaccinated have kind of had a mentality towards the vaccinated, like, well, what did you expect was going to happen? Like, this is the outcome. And, you know, so I really just feel that we need to be very aware right now of helping our fellow brothers and sisters that are going through this, that are actually hurting, and try to figure out ways to help them the best that we can.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so terrible what some of these vax-injured individuals are experiencing on a daily basis in terms of, we've interviewed people on this program. I've interviewed people, I say we as in, you know, the team, Dylan and Ryan, the engineers, and my off microphone, I should say, de facto co-producer, Michael J., who's hopefully listening. But yeah, to hear a firsthand account of the vax injured, it's so heart-wrenching to hear of folks who took an intervention they were told was safe, and then they're experiencing the total collapse of their health, just across multiple organ systems, being diagnosed with multiple diseases all at once. It's unbelievable, the level of injury, and then the total disregard for these people as human beings, that they cannot find them any recognition through the legal system, through the medical system. But I'd also like to point to, and I'll just mention this as a matter of historical record, the case of Maddie DeGarry, who everyone should be familiar with. Maddie DeGarry was, I believe she was 12 years old at the time, but she was not even an adult person who agreed to participate in the Pfizer trial, and after receiving her injection started experiencing excruciating pain and had to be withdrawn from the trial and ultimately was hospitalized. She's been made handicapped, severely handicapped by these injections. And initially, Pfizer tried to just literally discard her like roadkill. I mean, they did not want to take any responsibility for having completely destroyed this young girl's health, to the point that the family needed to take legal action. And ultimately, Pfizer was forced to pay for her medical treatment. But you mean you have a young woman who's brave enough to participate in a medical trial, and when they get injured, you try to act like they don't exist? I mean, that's mafia type of stuff. Mm-hmm. And that story in and of itself should have brought this whole reign of corruption to its knees. They injured a young girl. But the fact is, many, many, many more people were injured, first in the trials. And another little secret about what they did is people like Maddie DeGarry were simply removed from the trial. So they don't get counted as data for the ineffectiveness and the danger of the product because they weren't in the trial. They were removed because they couldn't be in the trial because they were crippled by the product. So that's another thing that's highlighted in The Real CDC by John Baudouin, is how you see very clearly the record keepers are going out of their way to keep inaccurate records as it pertains to these things. And that's on both sides. So you have people who have severe comorbidities, who suffered from Alzheimer's for years, who have heart conditions, even cancer, any number of serious conditions, and often people in an advanced age suffering from multiple comorbidities. They pass away, sadly, and then it's called COVID, with no mention of these other serious comorbidities. And then on the other hand, you have people who were vaccinated, quote unquote, died within 24 to 48 hours. I mean, that's actually a significant number of people that, again, the government has just simply chosen not to acknowledge. People who died within 24 hours of receiving their injections. It's an alarmingly high number of people, but they go out of their way to mention any number of causes and always exclude the vaccine as a cause when it apparently is the cause of a sudden death or what have you. So you just have the numbers being distorted on both sides, and then policy gets made based on the omission of information and other forms of deceptive techniques in the misrepresentation of information. But let me ask you now, and by the way, if you'd like to talk to our guest today, we have holistic practitioner who resides in Ontario, Victoria Chapman, on the line, providing a Canadian perspective, providing a holistic perspective. And of course, the number, as always, to join the conversation is 888-874-4888. 888-874-4888. We'd love to hear from you. We love the PRN family and all of your astute observations. But let me ask you now, Victoria, how would you describe, having sort of lived through all of this, what off the top of your head is different about Canada now? Do you feel like you live in a different country to some extent before and after all of these paradigm shifting events? What does Canada feel like to you at the moment relative to before any of this started?
I would have to say that right now where we're at in Canada is a whole lot of censorship. They really, excuse me, we don't have access to a lot of things. Like, for example, we could go onto X and we can find news there, but none of our social medias will show us news. There's different rules and regulations that they have created for Canadians that limit our ability to be able to speak up and speak out. They have practically made it a policy that if you're speaking up and out about certain things, they put it underneath the guise of hate speech, or, if you're speaking truth at all, you get highlighted and discredited under the guise of one of the various labels that we were given through COVID. Prior to COVID, Canada always felt, for myself anyway, Canada always felt like a very, I'll say, a free country in the sense, there's a lot of people that will not agree with me on that because obviously we're governed by, a government, and that means that we're not in our own sovereignty. But beforehand, we could peacefully protest together. We could get together. We could speak up about different issues. And now that is really being targeted. Like when they had the trucker convoy here, it was absolutely incredible. The energy across Canada was absolutely incredible. And, it was very peaceful. It was very loving. It was very kind. It was a lot of Canadians that just have big hearts that wanted to come together to say, like, hey, man, we're all in this together, but this is not okay. Having to be coerced into or threatened to receive a vaccination in order to function in your everyday life is just something that I never thought that I would see in my life, to be honest. So there has been a lot of, there's a lot more fear here, I'll say, compared to what was before. A lot more people are mindful. Like, for example, I know a lot of people that, for whatever reasons in their own life and their own belief systems, they just followed along with this whole psychological warfare because that, as Canadians, we're pretty much taught that, like, you do the right thing, so they really did gaslight us and really emotionally manipulated us in the way that they were using the psychology around getting these shots. But when it comes to, like, where are we at now in Canada, that's kind of where we're at. We're censored. They're still trying to say that these shots are safe and effective. They are still pushing and advertising for people to get their shots, which is mind-blowing to me. Because, with the amount of research that has been done and the amount of leading-edge doctors and scientists and virologists and all of these different people that have been frontline trying to figure this out right from the beginning, they have been sounding the alarm. And as we saw worldwide, there were so many people that were silenced and censored through this. But, I think as a society that it's super important for us to really take a look at what just happened. How did we get here? And to try to make sure that we do not put ourselves in this position again, recognizing now some of the tactics that have been used on us. I don't know about with Canada. I don't know if our censorship will be lifted. Our prime minister is stepping down and there will be a new one eventually. So I don't know if when that switch of power happens, if the censorship bills will be lifted or not. But we are definitely in a state where the government does not want Canadians talking about real truth about what just happened through COVID. That's for sure. Yeah.
I'm actually writing an article about censorship. I have a great opportunity to now be, I don't know if you'd call me a staff writer, a contributing writer to a journal called Propaganda in Focus. And I'm writing an article about this weird sort of pro-censorship push by the Democratic Party leading up to the election. And it was just rather odd and almost non sequitur how various Democrats sort of came out of the woodwork to make these odd pro-censorship statements, which I'm very puzzled by because it's generally not something that people are excited about. It's not a top 10 issue, I don't think, for really any American. Hey, what do you want to improve about America? Oh, we need more censorship. I don't really think that's on anyone's top 10. But the Democrats were coming out and promoting censorship as though it was this appealing thing that would excite people. And peak censorship we can refer to as when vaccine-injured individuals were taking to social media to report directly their own vaccine injuries and getting flagged as misinformation. No, this is a lie. Vaccines are safe and effective. Disregard this person who said they received their shot and had a heart attack within 2 minutes. Disregard this person who received their shot and within 24 hours was experiencing the total collapse of their health. I just got back in contact with a friend of mine from my old neighborhood. Hadn't spoken to him in a while, didn't have an up-to-date number for him. And I was really happy he reached out to me because I was kind of worried about him. Hadn't heard from him in a while. And he, to my amazement, was familiar with my medical freedom journalism. He said, yeah, man, I've been checking out your articles and the stuff you've been writing. He said, man, the vaccine messed me up really bad. He said, I didn't really think much of it. I just got the shot so I could escort my family to various events. I didn't want to be locked out of society. And upon receiving the shot, started having severe headaches, which then by night times turned into seizures. And then he was being hospitalized, and this started an ongoing health battle where he says he's doing better now after a rigorous change in protocol, but yet another vaccine-injured individual that I know. And there's so many accounts I've heard now that frankly, and this is how crazy everything is, just like I was saying about Maddie DeGarry and how that one incident should have been something of national importance, but it's completely swept under the rug along with ultimately thousands, maybe millions of additional cases. And any one of these stories, I've been told, would give me pause. If I heard one of the 1,000 stories I've heard, I'd say, I don't want to take something that would do that to that one person. But when it is actually the case that people have had so many stories to share, I mean, people who have cancer and they feel quite certain that it was from the vaccine. They were doing quite well. They maintain a healthy lifestyle, suddenly diagnosed with cancer, suddenly diagnosed with a heart condition, suddenly passing out. That was one of the first vaccine injuries I heard of. A good friend of mine, her mother took the shot, collapsed that night, and that began a pattern of collapsing suddenly, and eventually fell and suffered facial fractures eventually. All kinds of injuries. More than one person I've spoken to who's gone into anaphylactic shock upon receiving their injection. Multiple people with detached retinas, including medical freedom hero and former guest of this program, Julie Threet, who, for those of you who haven't heard that episode of the Bassline, I'm not sure which number it is offhand, but she's a dynamic duo with Ronald F. Owens Jr., another former guest of this program. They are relentless, and props to Ronald and Julie. They're going to every county board of supervisors meeting in the state of California systematically and putting them on notice that we have proof of COVID injections injuring people and killing people, and they are now legally culpable. That is the board of supervisors who failed to respond to this critical information. Once again, folks, we'd love to hear from you. The phone number is 888-874-4888, 888-874-4888. I'm not sure if anyone's on the line yet, but please don't be shy. We would love to hear from you. And we love to engage with the community here. But let's hear, if you could tell us clearly, Victoria, please give us every means by which people can contact you, keep track of you. How do people follow you on X? Take your time and explain that stuff so people can support you or get in contact with you if they need your services, actually.
Yeah, for sure. So My social media, you could look me up under Victoria Chapman. I also have a hashtag that is Miss V, MISSV. I am a little inconsistent with social media because I'm more of a boots on ground, one-on-one person. But I also am starting a Substack that I'm going to be putting my first article out on that today, and that is under Walk with Intent. But yeah, if you end up putting in hashtag Miss V, you will come across all my different posts. You'll kind of get a feel for what I talk about, what I focus on. Just to go in for a moment, Jeremiah, to what you were saying, I just wanted to highlight this. I think you've just made so many great points. The one valuable thing that I feel has happened as a humanity, and though a lot of people would have a lot of different opinions about this because it's horrifying, but I think that as a humanity, one of the things that has come to light is the fact that our medical system is no longer effective at the level that we all believed it was. Don't get me wrong. I mean, if someone's having a heart attack, I'm not going to start doing energy medicine on them. We need the Western system to make sure that they get that care. So I'm not, blanket statement, not making a blanket statement around the fact that the Western medical model is fully ineffective. There are different circumstances where they have really helped people, and that's amazing. But I do think that this whole entire experience has reminded us that we need to pay attention. We need to pay attention to ourselves. We need to learn about how our bodies function. We need to learn what kind of increases or decreases our mental health, our emotional sanity, our energetic well-being. And I do feel that, especially in terms of people that are injured at this point, them being aware that there's not many options, or they're not even sure what options are available to them. I really think that this is where the Eastern medicine model comes in and complements and can do a lot of really neat things with someone to get them to learn about their bodies, how they function, but to also then learn how to correct the issues that are going on in the body. I mean, that's, the unfortunate part is that people believe that there's not ways for us to heal. And I do really appreciate that this whole entire experience has given people the opportunity to move in the direction of learning about themselves and their healing in a different way. They're starting to look at different modalities to see what else is out there other than just the Western model, because, well, we have a massive distrust in that model as of these current times in life,
Yeah, absolutely. We have a couple callers on the line. I'm happy to say we have Michael in Massachusetts. How are you today, Michael? Michael, are you there?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Could you turn the radio down there in the back?
Yeah.
There you go. How are you today?
I'm very good. Thanks for taking my call.
Absolutely.
So just in thinking about her last comments, your guest's last comments, people looking into their health and trying to and working to find ways to connect with their body and how it can heal itself if we, kind of step out of the way. So it's a long time coming since Rockefeller had the Flexner report, which was basically they went around to, most of the audience probably knows this, especially if there's Gary's leftover audience here. But they went around to all the schools that were teaching medicine, and only wanted to certify the ones that were into drugs and surgery because the drugs were coming from the oil. And, so they were all these schools were given lots of money, and all the other schools were basically attacked. Yeah. And then over the years, the AMA three times has been convicted of racketeering.
Mm-hmm.
And, but nothing seems to happen when these things, if you get convicted 3 times of racketeering, something should happen.
Yeah, seriously.
Think, right?
Yeah, good point.
But I just one last comment about the censorship sometimes backfires.
Yeah, good point.
So if you think about the TikTok refugee Red Note, aka Little Red Book phenomenon, people in America are finding out that we're in a third world country, quote unquote. And there's a lot of things about the Chinese system that are beneficial for people. And we're kind of in like a kind of a zoo here, like like a safari. It's like a safari here. We're free, but we're free to starve to death and be homeless.
Yeah, seriously.
So one thing I found out from that is that once you buy your place, there's no more property tax.
Oh, wow.
Like ever. So if you're old and you don't have a job or whatever, you still have your house.
Yeah, the opposite here. Here, if you don't pay your property taxes, your property will be confiscated promptly. And it's, it's not yours anymore. You didn't pay your taxes.
Exactly.
But yeah, thank you so much, Michael. Thanks for calling. Have a great weekend. And talk to you soon, brother. We have Nadine on the line from Queens. How are you today, Nadine?
Hi, Jeremiah and Victoria. Do you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Hello.
Okay, great. I just wanted to show my gratitude. I've spoken to Jeremiah before when you had another guest, and I was able to reach out to his organization with Michael Caine.
Oh, great.
Teachers for Choice. And we were in contact with each other. And just like you, Jeremiah, I was also let go from the DOE.
Yeah,
And,
I wasn't actually a DOE employee. I worked in schools. I worked for a private after-school company. But, yeah, I lost my job of 20 years,
Of 20 years, right. Me too.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to show my gratitude. And every time I hear you, you just bring up such great things. So I continue to ask blessings on your endeavors for you and all your guests. So another point is that I live here in the borderline of Queens and Bushwick, and there's so many smoke shops. Why don't you try to organize health clinics in these empty spots that they have here? And I see 2 in front of me, 2 in each corner, and how we can educate the community on what's going on. And I know you would have lines of souls reaching out to these clinics that can educate and just replace all this other nonsense with this negativity that's happening in the neighborhoods. But that's just my suggestion. But blessings to you guys, and thank you, Jeremiah, for everything you do.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate those kind words. And yet, I absolutely, I think in regard to what you just said, I really believe that all of the major problems that we face in society and in the world, I believe they are solvable problems. I don't think on average that we need Einsteinian theories or Einsteinian level solutions. The reason why many terrible things persist is because, unfortunately, bad people are profiting off of doing things in a harmful way. And unfortunately, they will not stop doing things in a harmful way unless we stop them, because they wish to continue to profit, and they clearly have no regard for the harm they are inflicting. So they have a system that is harmful. They don't care. It's profitable to them. Therefore, they will continue making profit unless we somehow find a way to stop them and stop the senseless wars, the mass poisoning, the overall denigration of our society, our institutions. But I strongly believe that all of the solutions to our major problems are, for the most part, simple solutions. And the solution number one is, stop destroying yourself. Stop, for example, treating the planet Earth as an infinite garbage can. Stop harming people and making it so possible and available in terms of the instruments that people use to harm themselves and their communities. I don't think we have any more calls on the line at the moment, but thank you for the calls, Michael and Nadine. If anyone else would like to call in, we do have, I think, enough time for one more call. But in the meantime, what would you say? I would like to ask you, Victoria, what are some of your thoughts about the Stop the Shots community that we're building up on X? And what do you think we can do to make that community bigger and something meaningful?
Yeah, Stop the Shots is an amazing community. I have been learning so much. There's so many incredible doctors and nurses and just educators in general in all different aspects and areas. I have been, it's one of those things at 9:00 every night. Excuse me. I have a notepad and I come onto X and I just absorb all of the different levels of education. I think that that's a huge thing. There's a lot of people in the world that don't even know how we got to where we are because they don't have the education behind what's actually going on. And the Stop the Shots community has really been helpful in connecting with people that can explain what's going on, let's say, for example, in the body with turbo cancer, but from layman's terms in ways that the general public can understand it, which is definitely invaluable in my mind. I think that you guys are doing a wonderful job. I think that everybody getting into the community, I love the fact that there's a lot of different people now that are hosting the shows at different times during the day to reach different people. I think that that was a great move in terms of networking and getting the community out there at a different level. But yeah, just really continuously sharing content with and for each other. Like you've said plenty of times, really amplifying the voice so that people's stories, experiences, and education can really be a puzzle piece that is contributed to the greater good here and the whole picture of things.
Right.
So I just wanted to say thank you so much because honestly, it's been so inspiring coming across the Stop the Shots community. It's been beautiful to be able to have a place that you can speak with other people that also understand what's going on here in the world and to just share your ideas and your thoughts and feelings about things. And I think we need more of that. And I think that, more and more communities will continue to open up conversations because we are at a place in life right now where we definitely need to be talking more to educate each other about what we understand about what's going on and how to actually work with and for each other in collaboration to be helping people that are seemingly falling through the cracks of the actual medical system.
Yeah, those are some great comments and observations. And I want to thank you for being such a thoughtful contributor to the community. Victoria was quietly sitting back and doing a lot of listening and then started requesting the mic and making some really thoughtful contributions to the discussion. But it was noticeable that you were note-taking, as you said, and doing a lot of listening in the first place, which I think speaks to your personality and character. And yes, folks, please you go to X. I hope it should come right up if you search Stop the Shots community or do hashtag Stop the Shots. There's plenty of links back to the community page. Please join the community and invite other people to do the same. We're at 2.7 thousand members. We want to burst past 3,000 members, past 10,000 members. We want 100,000 members. Ultimately, we want 1 million members. Even if you don't engage with the community, which I would love for you to do, just make an account just to join the group because it's a living petition. It's people saying, stop the shots, stop injecting people with these crippling, often deadly, toxic agents. And there's a lot of goals that we should have, I believe, as a medical freedom movement. But as Dr. Ben Marble has said, that's sort of the low-hanging fruit right now. We need to stop these shots because they're still being pushed and they're injuring people on a daily basis. So we're almost out of time here, folks. We're down to our last 30 seconds pretty much. But I just want to thank you so much, Victoria Chapman, for being my guest today and for sharing your wisdom with the Bassline audience, the PRN audience. And thank you again for your contribution to the Stop the Shots community. And I really hope that folks look into your work because I really think that you're on to something in terms of this integrative approach to healing and mental well-being that you've innovated.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jeremiah. I really appreciate being a guest on your show as well. And for anyone that has not yet looked into the Bassline, there's incredible podcasts and information and education there. So definitely go back and catch up with all of the different work that Jeremiah is doing as well because it's incredible.
Yeah, I
really
appreciate
appreciate you.
Oh, I appreciate that. And, we've had so many great guests. I'm going to wrap it up right here, but I'll just say absolutely share the links to this program. Any individual that you know that might be interested in the legal aspect, the scientific aspect, we have all different types of guests addressing all different aspects of the discussion. Please find some links and forward them to friends and say, hey, check out this program. I think it's pretty interesting. And that in and of itself would be a very appreciated and I think positive action on your part. So everyone have a beautiful weekend. Thanks again, Victoria. Thanks, Ryan and Dylan, my trusty engineers. These guys are doing yeoman's work here at PRN. And thanks, everyone. Take care. Talk to you soon. See you next week. We have Dr. Merrill Nass returns to the Bassline next week. Peace, everyone.
Something that you do, 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 do.